The best day of the week is finally here, and if your weekend plans include a trip to the movie theater, we'll have your box office options. No doubt, The Hustle and Detective Pikachu will try to knock the Avengers from their top spot. Will either of them succeed? Our film critic is here with a take on all of it. Welcome, Rad.
Hey,
good to see you.
Me.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, I'm not cool enough for that.
You did it. You pulled it off.
No, I didn't. I failed. Hashtag fail. Rad, I hear you only got to see one of these two movies. The big question?
Which one? Well, yeah, see, okay, so I had the choice to make that most audiences had to make because the screenings for press for both The Hustle and Detective Pikachu were at the same time. I wasn't being lazy.
And you
They
chose?
forced me to choose one, and my kids would have cut me if I did not choose Detective Pikachu.
Whoa,
Yeah,
really?
I mean, otherwise, Anne Hathaway, I stand Anne Hathaway, I would have gone to The Hustle, but the kids, they rule the house.
Pikachu.
We gotta do Pikachu,
Yeah,
exactly.
there you go.
Yeah, so, and look, I'm one of those parents who like what we're gonna scrap The Hustle now and talk about Detective Pikachu. But yeah, I'm one of those parents who lives outside of the world of Pikachu and Pokemon. I think you are too.
Yeah, I'm not into the violence that it's like, what did you say?
It's like cockfighting, right? The whole
Cockfighting,
premise of Pokemon, if you watch this, it's kids trapping little creatures and making them battle each other, and it's always been off-putting.
And
Yeah.
then you trap them again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not so nice.
Definitely not for me. Thankfully, Detective Pikachu totally abandons that entire formula. What you have instead is a detective story, a noir detective story where Pikachu is teaming up with a human to solve a missing persons case. It's actually borrowing a little bit from the template of Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Cool.
Remember? Yeah. So I mean, not quite as great as Roger Rabbit, but still, it's a great inspiration to follow from. Also inspired by the look of this movie is inspired by movies like Blade Runner and maybe even a little Returns of Batman.
Yeah.
And of course, you got Pikachu, little adorable furry yellow thing, voiced by Ryan Reynolds.
Right, so is it like Pikachu? And then like, hi, I'm sexy Ryan Reynolds?
Yeah, also some people are hearing Pika Pika, and then the other ones are hearing basically Deadpool, but the PG version of Deadpool coming out the mouth.
Ooh,
Yeah.
is there an R-rated version of this?
Well, yeah, we are waiting for the R-rated cut of Detective Pikachu, where Pikachu just goes full. He uses that lightning tail for other things, but
Whoa, family television.
but yeah, so no, look, Ryan Reynolds is funny. I think what I really enjoyed about this movie though is that the best jokes is where Ryan Reynolds' Pikachu would poke fun at other Pokemons and look at how ridiculous and absurd these characters are because it acknowledged my feelings about these characters, like Mr. Mime and stuff. Like these things are ridiculous. This movie acknowledged that.
Charmander, come on.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
love Charmander,
Yeah,
right?
but meanwhile, my son, it was the fan service for him. So for him, this was the greatest movie ever made.
Absolutely. My boys have the encyclopedia. They know every name, what their powers are, how they progress. Who should see this then?
All right, so aside from everyone who has to orbit the Pokemon universe, well, think of this movie as Bumblebee, which is, it's a movie that got the formula right, even if you're someone who's sick and tired of the franchise, like the Transformers franchise.
Never.
Yeah,
Never.
exactly. Oh, never. Well, our kids will argue that their Pokemon is our Transformers.
Yeah.
But also, another movie to think of is something like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, because, again, not a great movie, but kind of fun, and what it does is it just plays up the weirdness and silliness of these characters, and that's what Detective Pikachu gets right.
Okay, we've been talking Tolkien, and we know how to say it now because Kelsey went to London and she did the junket. She came back, she did her full report.
Yeah.
But you didn't love Tolkien.
I didn't love it. I mean, look, it's
guys
because...
might fight after.
Well, maybe. Did Kelsey love this?
She loved meeting the cast.
She loved meeting the cast. Well, you know what? Look, this is a movie that's essentially pitched for Lord of the Rings fans or the Hobbit fans because this is the movie about the guy who wrote them, provided they are so into knowing about the guy who wrote them that they're willing to watch the kind of story that they don't typically watch, because obviously J.R.R. Tolkien's life is nothing like Lord of the Rings.
No.
I mean, the guy grew up at the turn of the century. This is a movie about him during that era, going to Oxford, eventually enlisting in the war, in the First World War, experiencing the Battle of the Somme. And so the movie is about, he has friends, he meets the love of his life, he goes to war, stuff you've seen in 100 movies before, but the pitch here is the movie has to keep reminding you what distinguishes this movie is, well, his friends, they're kind of like a fellowship. And the love of his life, well, she's kind of like an elven queen to his Aragorn. And, those scenes in the
You got all the names down.
Yeah. Oh, I remember. And the scenes in the war, they remind you of Mordor. So, the movie has to remind you why this is a little different from all that stuff that you'd seen Keira Knightley star in so many times before.
Okay, so who should be seeing this one?
So, you know what? Think of this movie as if people who loved Goodbye Christopher Robin, which is essentially the same movie because it's about the guy who wrote Winnie the Pooh and who also took his trauma from war and put it into books. And also, if it's also for people who love movies like The Man Who Knew Infinity. If you wanted a heartfelt drama about a guy who went to Oxford, that's what you're getting in both of these movies.
All right. Well, now I know what to watch this weekend. Now what I want to watch and what I should be watching. So, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
We're gonna do it that way. 'Cause I'm not that cool.